Welcome to this evening's SPPMA presentation. Today we have joining us Paul Pearce, and he's President Americas of a firm called Great Demo. All of you have had to do product demos at one point or another, and if you've had to do product launches and that sort of thing, it's all something that we've been through. Some people dread it, some people thrive on it. It's always an adventure, but Paul has been there and done that on many, many occasions. He's worked with a lot of pre-sales teams, operating and fostering alignment between marketing, sales, product management, customer success. Really has his head wrapped around the buyer journey, how to make that successful, product, and really how to get the most out of your interaction with a customer when you're dealing with demonstrations, and how to create and craft a compelling demo, and accelerate the entire customer adoption process. He's joining us this evening from the Black Hills of South Dakota. So Silicon Valley is more than a geography; it's a concept as well. And we're very happy to have Paul join us this evening. So give him a warm virtual welcome, and we'll kick it over to Paul if you want to start sharing.
Well, Tom, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I'll go full presentation mode here, and then I'll share the screen. Make sure that everyone can see that. Let's see here. So share. All right. Hey, so I'm curious, Jim Shibler, can you see the screen in the presentation on your side? Good to go?
Yeah.
All right. I love it. Sounds good. Well, Tom, you did a lot of conversation and discussions about demo, but we're not even talking about demos today. We're going to talk about something better because before you can give an adequate demo, you need to know what the customer or the product needs and how to figure it out from a discovery perspective. And that's really the focus in the conversation today. And I want this to be a very interactive session. So if you've got something, throw it in the chat, come off mute. You have the ability to do that. Alok's been in some of my training before, which is why I think I got this invitation. And as he would share, I love the interactivity. So feel free to, let's just have a conversation around some of these topics. I know we've got an hour, just a little bit more to share some of this. And so we'll take it from there. Hey, one of the things that I'd love to do, though, if we're really going to start and talk about discovery, I'd like to start with what I consider the most important piece or trick to discovery. So I'll give you something right off the bat. If you would, help me do something real quick. Click on your video feed, if you will, your picture, your image, if you have your camera going, if not, your name. If you right mouse click on that, you can scroll down to where it says rename. And at rename, I want you to add your job title. So your name hyphen job title, if you will. You can see on my name, it says Paul Pierce / Great Demo and Doing Discovery. You guys can do that real quick. That would be great. I see Alok is the Chief Curiosity Officer. All right, Jim, Product Management Consultant. Got it. Let's get a couple more here and then we'll get moving.
It looks like Tom found the switch because it just got a message that said the focus mode means now everybody's cam is off and everybody's camera will be seen if they turn it on by
Oh, I
everybody.
love it.
And I see a bunch
Yep.
of faces now, so it's working.
Thanks for sharing that, because I wasn't sure what focus mode was doing, given that it wasn't very descriptive what that meant.
Got it. Matt, I see health tech. Sounds good. And a few other folks. Well, welcome. It's just a privilege to share some of this information with you. So why don't we go ahead and get started? I can see some folks on my screen here, but we'll continue to move forward. And this is what I call the menu. We've got 4 or 5 things that we can talk about today. Love to share those with you. And then I want your feedback and your opinion. First of all, I'd love to spend just a moment talking about effective product discovery methodologies, if you will. And we think that discovery is a methodology, and there's levels and there's stages and there's things to progress. And so I'd love to talk about those 7 levels, get your opinion on where you think you are from a discovery perspective. And then we're going to have a quick role play exercise. So if you're here, be prepared to go in a breakout group in about 5 to 10 minutes. And we're going to do a quick exercise. I want to see what you capture from this quick exercise, if you will. Then there's two things that we can talk about. One is question types. And some of my audience and customers say, we love this part of the conversation. It's really to look at what types of questions there that exist and how they can be used effectively in discovery. I would probably create that as a little bit lower priority because I definitely want to make sure that we look at exploring pain and really finding out what our customers want and digging much deeper into what I call the critical business issues that we're trying to solve for and address. And if time allows, we can definitely talk about value and how to better articulate value. But there is one thing that I will give you today, and we can download this later in the session if you like, but it's what I call the situation slide creation template, if you will. It's the perfect way to tell a story, and in my opinion, captures all the critical elements that we need when we're doing discovery, whether it's for a product enhancement, a sales presentation, or anything else. So with that, why don't we go ahead and get started? I'll come back and ask you a few questions. But if you're ready to go and dig into the methodology, give me a big smile and a thumbs up if you would. There we go. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. Let's dive in. Okay. First of all, let's start right here. And according to the book Doing Discovery by Peter Cohan, there is a discovery methodology. And so what I'd like to do is give you the 7 levels of the methodology, discuss them for just a moment, and then I want your feedback on them. So here we go. If you're going to assess your own discovery levels, according to Peter Cohan in the book, he said that there's 7 levels. And the first, of course, is level 1. Actually, I guess there could be a level 0 where we don't ask anyone any questions about anything and we just recommend solutions and products and enhancements to our clients. But really, level 1 is where we start to look at our audience and the products and so forth. And we start to identify what we consider surface level user frustrations. I don't like this within the product. And sometimes we call that pain. And so the first level is identifying the pain that our clients and customers have. The second level then is going beyond just uncovering the pain, but getting to different levels of pain and investigating a little bit further. In this slide, I said we're calling it frictions, but using and identifying these user pain points and then investigating more broadly to figure out impact and so forth. The next level is not only does a person generally start with the pain and dig into deeper levels, but can they explore, broaden scope, and then investigate the business impact of that particular issue, if you will. Okay, level 4. People with advanced level 4 discovery not only identify and quantify the impact, now they have an ability to prioritize the issues, move forward. Of course, level 5, translating discovery into a strategic product vision, and then taking it 2 steps further. One is applying those skills across different product platforms, different market segments, et cetera, and then different adoption stages, if you will. The last is integrating that into repeatable, scalable PM methodologies. And so I'm curious, real quick, looking at those 7 levels of discovery skills from a product management perspective, in your chat dialog box, if you would, type where do you think you're at? Are you advanced? Can you actually translate things into product vision? Do you prioritize issues and quantify the impact that it would have on the organization or for your end users? Where do you think you're at? Let's look here real quick. I'm going to pull up my chat dialog box to look. Okay, we got some 4s and some 5s. Very good. So what it sounds like to me, folks think they're pretty skilled at discovery. I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah, very good. Who's Sean Murphy? Level 0, show up and throw up. Okay, that's good. Awesome. Those are it. Jim said 3 to 5, depending upon the client. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Let's jump in and look at something here just a little bit deeper, if we can. And what I actually want to do is I want to do a quick hands-on discovery practice with you. And so I've set up a template, if you will. I'd love to share it with you. So we can do just a quick role play exercise. And here's the situation, if you will. So we want to make sure that we can understand the customer's context. And that starts right here. So let me tell you a little bit of a story. And that's here. Jamie Carter, who's the operations director, is struggling with some customer experience issues. And they're unclear of the actual root cause. So process issues, technology gaps, or could it be something else? And one of the things that we want to look at here is that leadership presence and pressure and the internal tensions, pardon me, that's going on. So here's the quote that Jamie shared. We're getting too many customer complaints, but I'm not sure if it's a process issue or a technology gap or something else. And so with that, I want to do a quick fun exercise with you. And this is how it looks. We're going to do a quick role play discovery session. And so what I'm going to do real quick is put you in a virtual breakout room. One person is going to do this. They are going to play the role of Jamie. Now I've got a cheat sheet for you. We'll look at that in just a moment. And so when you jump into this group, one person gets to be the client, Jamie, and the other person who might have rated themselves higher in our discovery methodology is going to try to ask some questions. And what we want to do is gather some insights and seek, can we get a comprehensive understanding of the pain and the issues and what's going on with this client? And then the last thought here is, now if you're playing the part of the customer of Jamie, you can make up any of the information you want. It doesn't necessarily matter. But what I want you to do is have fun with it, be as kind and as forthcoming with information as you can. And let me get you a quick example here. I'm going to share this with you in your chat dialog box. Let me send over a document to you. It's now being sent in your chat dialog box, which means you can open up the document, which I'm going to share with you in just a moment. Here it comes. Now let's put this over here on this screen so you can see it. All right. So what you're seeing right now is what I call the doing discovery exercise. And this presents client background details. So for example, I can start to see, looking at the persona, it's Jackie Carter. We know that, and director of operations. They're a mid-sized company providing a mix of digital and other products. Been in the role for 7 years and basically has some direct reports. But here's the starting information. Jamie's expressed frustration in the company's current experience. It's suffering and suspects it's due to operational inefficiencies. And of course, we saw this quote, we're getting too many customer complaints, but I'm not sure. And so I want to share this document, give you the additional information of what here. Customers have key complaints about late deliveries. There's no single tracking of orders. Communication between teams is inconsistent. Customer retention is dropping. There's way too many refunds on service credits and so forth. And then the CEO wants quick action. So I've documented some parts of this exercise. And what I'd love to do for just a moment is put you in a quick breakout room. And I want the person who thinks they're most skilled or rated themselves the highest in discovery to try to ask questions to see if you can come and figure out what the solution may be or what's really going on, but more importantly, to identify the root cause issue of this particular situation. Let me stop for just a moment. I want to open it up for thoughts, comments, questions. What do you think? Any questions about the exercise? And would you entertain me and entertain the concept here for just a moment of doing this quick exercise? Michael, I'm not sure if that was complete enthusiasm or just like, okay, I'll do it because I have to.
A little bit of both.
I get it. I'm going to put you in a breakout room. We're going to spend just a few moments in there. And then here's what I believe will happen. At about the 8 to 9 minute mark, I'm going to click a button that brings you back. And I just want to hear what you learned. First, this will be fun because you'll get to meet someone that you may not have worked with before. You're going to figure out who's got the most experience, who wants to be the customer. And then one person is going to ask questions. And when we get back, I just want to hear what you captured in this quick role play analysis. All right, last chance for questions, and then I'll move things over into this breakout room.
Actually, I have a quick question. I'm assuming that we're all in the same organization as Jamie. We're not a vendor to Jamie, providing it like a service.
Yeah, it could actually be either way. I'm glad you asked that question, Matt. So you could be someone who's in product development and management within the same organization, or you could be a consultant working with another customer. As
Gotcha.
long as you get to try to figure out what that root cause analysis is and perform discovery to the best of your ability.
Gotcha.
What do you think? Good to go? Appreciate the question. Folks coming back. I even saw a smile on Brandy's face. It's almost like she enjoyed that conversation, maybe. Or that you're drinking wine. Let's be honest. I love it.
Not the
That's
first
great.
and won't be the last.
Oh, I love it. That's fantastic. Well, welcome back, folks. I didn't give you near enough time to do complete discovery. I know I didn't do that, but I'm curious. What did you find out in your discovery session? Were you able to get to that root cause? And do you think you did a slightly effective job at discovery? Tell me what you're thinking.
I'd love to hear from Brandy.
Wendy, right? Sorry.
Well, go ahead. I mean, I think our group, I was a late observer in our group, having shown up late. I think it's easy to get, and Wendy, I hope you don't mind me saying this, is just it's easy to get pigeonholed on your perspective on the problem when you ask questions and not really go back to the person and really try to dig into their thing. Because if you get caught on, I see it's really easy to get caught on one thing that you think it is and not broaden the perspective on what it might actually be.
Yeah, absolutely. It is easy to get through. And here's one thing that I've learned over the years. I'll try to highlight this through some additional slides later is a lot of times clients don't know what the true root cause is or what the critical business issue is. And it's up to us to ask the right questions to get them there. So let me ask you a few more questions here real quick. I'm just going to hit a couple slides and real quick, did you uncover the root problem or just symptoms when you went through? Think about that for just a moment. I see a few folks scratching their head maybe. Did anyone have the ability to quantify the impact of the problem by show of hands? Or if you want to just speak up, anyone get the quantification? What's the value? What's the impact of whatever this challenge was? How badly is it impacting the organization? Hard to get. How about this? Oh, please go ahead, Michael. What were you thinking?
Didn't get to it, but I think the real question at the end is if they're losing customers, the customer retention rate, basically they're getting customer churn. The real question is what's their new customer acceptance rate versus their churn rate. I mean, that's really ultimately where the cost is in this business issue is the rate of churn, right? The cost of acquiring a new customer is really high. So if you're getting a lot of churn, right, you're basically having to pay for a new customer, and that's way more expensive. That's hitting the bottom line big time.
Yeah, I would second Michael. We were getting to that exactly is identifying the metrics and the measurements. Like what are the customer churn, whether it is acquisition and compared with the churn and the feedback mechanism. So we were getting there.
Oh, I love that. So you guys were on the right track. And I realized there was not enough time to do this effectively, but it sounds like a few, though, of you are focusing on the right things very, very quickly. So I like that. Very good. Hey, here's just a few more questions of things that you might have covered when you went through your discovery. How is the customer solving the issue today? What attempts have they made, et cetera, et cetera? You may have asked, what does success look like in their mind? What would the acceptable churn rate be? What constraints might limit adoption? Did anyone find out how does the problem rank amongst the other priorities that they may be struggling with? You know what I find, and I don't find this as much when product managers as I do people in pre-sales who want to jump to a solution way too early. I know how to fix it. I can fix it. Just listen to this. Hopefully, I don't think anyone had time to get there. Anyone identify what tools, process, or culture factors might influence the solution? Yeah? Mansoor, you did it. Love it. Way to go. Here's an interesting as one. Did you have a chance to start to challenge their thinking or expand their perspective? This one might have been tough when given the time frame as well, but something that we certainly suggest. there's a lot of research that shows that now customers think they know what they want or what the solution is well before they talk to the vendor, so to speak. And so finding out what they think they need, whether it's an enhancement or if it's a new feature or functionality, then that's something definitely worth knowing. And then, of course, one of the last questions here's, did you have a chance to build trust and credibility, or did they learn something new about their challenge based upon your experience? Lots of things there. So lots of questions. Did anyone get even a fraction of those things identified in the very short amount of time I gave you? Now, if we had more time, what I'd like to do is redo the role play. We're not going to have time to do that today, but I try to get all these items in about 12 to 15 minutes, but we won't do that today because there's some certain things that we need to do in discovery. And first of all, I'd have to ask you this question is, how much discovery is enough? So when you're looking at product enhancements or solving a customer's challenge, in your mind, how would you answer this question? How much discovery is enough?
Paul, stupid question. Are you showing slides?
Yeah, I am.
Does anybody else see them?
Yep.
Probably
Yeah.
not.
We are.
Yes.
Oh, you are. Good.
Yes,
I was
we are.
afraid, Sean, that
Oh, I
I
guess it's
didn't share
just
my
me.
screen.
I'll have to log out and try again.
Sometimes Zoom will hide it if you go into your Zoom client under the Windows menu.
Yeah.
It'll show the last.
So I
few
see two windows. I see you speaking in a highlighted window, and I see a whole gallery of faces.
Paul, are you sharing right now, Paul?
I don't
believe
see
I am.
slides.
Yeah,
I
we can
think
see it.
if Paul, if you unshare and then
Okay.
share,
I'll stop sharing. Just did that.
now share it.
I'll share again.
This might solve his problem.
How about that?
Good
I
trick.
just see a picture of Paul and a gallery of faces. So I guess it's just me. I'll have to use my mind's eye.
No, I don't see it either.
And I'm seeing it fine.
I see it.
I see it too.
I see it fine.
So on the top of the screen, the top bar, there should be two tabs. One that says meeting, one that says Paul H. Pearce screen.
Yeah, that's
So click
That's
on
probably
that
what it is.
screen and you should be able to see his screen.
So
Let
I'm
us
on a
know.
Mac, so my interface looks different, but I can pull down a thing that shows two.
You might have put it on the full screen, and that's why.
No, I'm
you
not
don't
on full
see.
screen.
Yeah, but if you click on, as he was saying, Paul Pierce's screen instead of meeting, then I can toggle between last speakers.
If you
window.
click on meeting, you will see faces. But if you click on Paul's icon at the very top, like a rim of the screen, you will see what he is sharing with us.
Good luck, Sean. If we see
Hey,
this,
I'm on my own. It's okay.
we'll
Go
know
with
why.
God, Paul.
Yeah. All right, we'll keep this party rolling. So the question is then, how much discovery is enough in your opinion? How do you know that you've done enough to identify what the challenge is and that you can recommend a solution or a product enhancement? Any answers? What do you think?
I think as much as it satisfies the customer.
Ooh, I like that. I would suggest that there's a couple things that we need to identify. First of all, I think you're right on track there, Mansoor, and that's first of all when the vendor or you has collected sufficient information to feel like they can confidently propose a precise solution. Secondly, of course, is then when the user or the customer believes that's the case, that the vendor has sufficient information of the client situation, and then both individuals or parties agree that no further questions are needed initially or at this moment.
wow.
Now, what do you think of Jim?
That could be a while.
I actually don't think discovery ever officially ends,
Yeah.
but I think there's a point when you have to move forward.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, there's an opportunity cost for not picking any solution and trying to get too precise.
Yeah, absolutely. From a sales perspective, I also believe that if everything's equal, most clients will generally choose offerings from the vendor that does a superior job in discovery. And I know we've seen that numerous times here at Great Demo and doing discovery. But let's go ahead and can move on because I actually want to share with you something that I absolutely love. We call it the situation slide. And a situation slide is just so valuable because I think it presents the perfect way to tell a story. But it also has 6 key elements of information that we need to make sure that we truly understand what the client needs. And I'd love to share an example with you, or at least the highlights of this with you real quick here. So first of all, when we think about a situation slide, it's got 6 key elements of information, and here they are. First of all, if we're doing discovery, if we're talking about a solution, we like to, at least from an internal perspective, like to capture the job title and the organization of the person that we're having discovery with, if you will. And there's some reasons. Obviously, if I was going to present this or share this back to the client, I don't need to tell them what their job title is, but it allows us to correlate everything else on the slide. For example, the critical business issue. And that's essentially the big root cause analysis, or what's the goal or the objective that's at risk. Why would a change or a product enhancement, why would that be necessary for this client? How is it going to move them forward? And we'll talk about a CBI a little bit in just a moment, but it has to be something that's truly critical. Now, here's the reality. Most customers don't talk about CBIs or what the true higher level issue is. They talk about problems. And so, of course, we want to highlight and capture the problem statements. And as a matter of fact, this is usually where clients start talking. You say, what's going on? What's your current situation? What are some of the challenges that you're facing today that made you reach out to have this conversation? And they must always start the conversation right here. Then, of course, once we understand the CBI, the problems, we want to know exactly the specifications or the specific capabilities that the client needs. Now, this could be, first of all, what they think they need. We want to understand what's on their mind, but then we also hopefully want to transition their vision to biased, based upon biased information based upon our experience. And so we can introduce ideas, concepts, and other components, and that goes into that specific capability. Of course, we want to be able to track the value and the impact here, as well as the timing that goes with it. And when we have those 6 key pieces of information, we feel like initially we'll have enough to propose a solution, but we've done enough to capture things in a discovery perspective. So let me stop there for just a moment, get your thoughts, feedback, or questions on this situation slide. What do you think? Anyone think that it might be missing something?
There's a specific capability is the solution, potential solution.
Exactly. Like, right here, the specific capabilities or the features a lot of times that the customer may need. Is that what you're asking, Wendy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking here. What are the features, the capabilities, the enhancements that not only the client thinks they need, but that we've agreed would be valuable to the solution?
I think what missing is maybe how that solution capability to lead the customer from current situation to meet the goal. From it's like the map, right? So how do we help the customer to get from current state to the future state to accomplish that business goal?
Oh, I love that. When I think of that, I think of the word the delta. It's the change. It's the difference between current and future state. And a lot of times we capture that in the value. So what's the impact? What's the capability? What is that? And that's usually captured here. Because what we need to do is, if we're going to suggest, a lot of times from a product management perspective, they're begging for change already. Other times we may need to convince them of change. And so when we look at it, one of the reasons we look at that delta or the value is to make sure that they realize that the pain to change is less than the pain to stay the same. And of course, from a product management perspective, a lot of times they're pushing us for that change because they want enhancements, features, and so forth. But it's one of the things that we do need to capture. And Wendy, I love the way you said that, the before and the after.
Thank you.
Well said.
And other factor I think is, do we have competing priority, right? So
Yes.
Just like you said, Paul, yeah, this solution will bring the customer from current state to future state. That's the value generation. But is any other initiative, could generate higher business value with actually less effort? So how do we compare different initiative, um, and then that could change the situation as well.
Love that. Wendy, initially I was thinking that priority would happen if you've captured multiple situations, multiple enhancements, then you can align those side by side and prioritize. But I think a natural extension to the slide is to put what is the priority for this? What's the revenue? And that can sometimes be correlated to that delta or the value or the impact, because the bigger the impact, the higher the probability or the priority generally.
Right.
So it's covered to some extent, but I love that addition to this particular slide of just saying what is the priority, and to whom. And so if we're associating that priority back to the persona, is that the customer? Is that an executive? Is that the sales team? Who is it that wants it and why?
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. So great. I love that.
Thank you.
Okay.
This presentation has a lot of overlap with the methodology, I was trained with, which is like a Toyota approach. And if I look at it with the lens of Toyota approach, the thing that is missing on this is the indication of what processes we are talking about and what is important to the organization, to the customer. What is important to the customer? So when I'm prioritizing it, I am prioritizing it with those parameters, not my own parameters, with their parameters.
Absolutely. I agree with you, Monsieur. And I generally record those here in what the problems or the reasons section. And that's a lot of times that current situation. And so those can be documented. And I'd be happy to share an example of a slide with you. But of course, you can modify these as needed. But we look at these as the 6 key pieces of information to try to make a decision and prioritize things. Great feedback. I love this.
Oh, is there a question about how they have tried to solve it or how they've solved it in the past or tried to address it? Is that you would see as key to capture? Or...
I do, and I think that generally comes back into the specific capabilities and the features. So what have they tried? It's good to know, but if I'm going to go move forward with a solution recommendation, I don't necessarily need that at least documented for the plan forward as much as I need to know what it is so we can identify that, either weed it out or add that in as a requirement or a capability. Do you agree, Greg?
Yeah, I think it's important also to know that is the solution you're proposing going to be better than what they tried before, how they solved it before, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, let's jump in. I'm going to be cognizant of time. I've got hours of content and not that much time left, but I want to jump in at exploring pain here for just a moment with you. And I'm going to skip. I'm going to skip kind of a story I was planning to tell, but I do want to spend just a moment thinking about a couple things here. And one of the questions I would ask you is, when do you know that you've earned the right to advise? And I've got some item on the screen here, but one of the things that Gartner had done some research on a couple years ago, and they said a lot of times that our customers, our clients, they've done a tremendous amount of research. A lot of times before they even reach out to an organization or company, if it's a new client acquisition, is they've spent about 60 to 70% of their time researching it. And they're talking to you later in their knowledge cycle. And so one of the things that we suggest is before you advise a client, before you offer a recommendation or a solution or a fix or an enhancement, is first you have to earn the right to actually advise and be trusted. And so there's just some simple steps here of listening first and building trust and providing value by sharing insights that helps clients see their situation a bit more clearly. And then only then can you more effectively guide your clients towards a recommended solution. And so we do suggest this first is figure out what exactly does your client know? What do they think they know? What are their feelings? Do they have design ideas in mind? that they can share with you. Establish that credibility through knowledge and empathy first, and then start to provide insights that can clear. And one of the ways I love to do it is just tell a story about another product, another customer, and say, this is what helped them, but I'm curious, would this also help you? And so that you can earn that advisor status. I consider a different approach to discovery. And I've got a picture here I want to share with you. What I find a lot of times, young folks in their career that are recommending solutions, whether it's in sales, pre-sales, or product management, want to tell the customer how to
Oh, your voice
solve
is
the
cutting
problem
off.
and answer someone internally. And you immediately know the solution. You can see it in your head. You're like, I know how to fix that. Anyone ever have that experience or feel that way? Like, yeah. Jim, I see you shaking your head, and a few other folks like, yes.
Yes.
But it's interesting because imagine it a little bit differently. And imagine that your customer or your prospect or whoever it is, it could be an internal client, they're in a dark cave. And instead of just grabbing their hand and pointing them towards the light, what you want to do is help them find their way out. So the client usually starts their projects in this dark cave. They're lacking a comprehensive of understanding. They don't understand the core issues, or maybe they think they do. And so point two here would be really the light of discovery. And that's essentially where, by asking questions, by doing deep discovery, what you start to do is shine the light on the path ahead. But here's the crucial part. You don't drag them out of the path themselves or out of the cave themselves. You help them discover the way themselves by asking intelligent questions. And so that's just one initial aspect I wanted to share with you from a discovery perspective. Because clients are going to talk about problems, but if we do discovery effectively, we're just simply asking a lot of questions based upon our knowledge where they go like, oh, I think I have an idea. And it's whatever you led them to see, that's you led them to that light. Kind of a unique perspective. Let me transition real quick. Would you agree with this? To customer client, pain points are really problems.
They're opportunities.
Yeah, the opportunities.
It's like you saw my next slide. I love it. Yeah. But pain points are also opportunities because they tell you exactly what your customers and your clients need the most. And so, obviously there's a discovery methodology. I think there's a discovery process as well. And it's pretty straightforward here. It's really five pieces of information. And I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on this, but it's first identifying stakeholders and then gathering the right information. And as I highlighted here, ensuring that we explore the client's vision of solution. Of course, then we're going to basically analyze those findings and expand on those things before we present our findings, have a meeting, and refine our understanding. And there's one way in which we suggest you do that. And here's a concept from the book Doing Discovery, if you will. It's asking expansion questions. And so expansion questions essentially are ones that are going to help us not only identify gaps in the existing solution, but start to ask and develop and get into that level 2 of analysis, not just identifying the problems, but trying to find out what else is impacted, who it might be impacting, et cetera, et cetera. I consider expansion questions like ripples on a pond, if you will. And when you're looking at that pond, if you think about this initial drop, that's the main problem. But the ripples are how it's impacting other individuals in the organization, other groups, other features, and so forth. And so there's really a lot of questions that we need to ask to dive down into deeper levels, to get past the hidden priorities that impact things like the roadmap decisions or other items. And so expansion questions allow us to dig in a lot further. Here's just a few examples for you. So you shared a challenge with me, or several, but I'm curious, what's the most frustrating part of this process for you and your end users? Or you mentioned a challenge around XYZ feature, but what workarounds do users rely on today and how effective are those? And so all we're doing is asking much more deeper, open-ended questions so that we can learn more about the impact, if you will, the ripples that are caused by this initial problem. I call it poking the bruise. And I have to tell you a funny story. You may relate with this. Anyone have an older brother when they were younger? Tom's laughing, so probably. I have this older brother, and you may have one, but he loved to torment me. When we were growing up, if I had a bruise on my shoulder or something hurt, he would literally walk up and he'd poke it really hard. He would wait for me to squeal and he'd say, "Oh, does that hurt?" And I want to think of our role in doing discovery as being like my older brother and poking the bruise by using those expansion questions and continue to go in. I want you to poke your client's bruise when they're offering challenges within the solution or looking for product enhancement requests. Is continue to ask those expansion questions so we can find out more broadly what that is. But here's the reality. Most people, when you poke the bruise, don't get much past the problem statement. They don't get to the critical business issue. And I'm debating how are we doing on time here? 8:55. We're not going to have time for this. Generally, what I do is I put you in a breakout room and I would ask you to ask these 4 questions of each other. And maybe if there's someone here, they would role play this with me live. Is there anyone who'd be willing to let me ask you 4 questions about your job today? I need a quick volunteer from the audience. All right, Mansoor, perfect. Or Mansoor, let me ask you these questions. First of all, Mansoor, if I may, what's your job title?
I am AVP for the AI deployment.
AI development?
Deployment.
Okay.
I work in a financial institute and I have like a Six Sigma as well as Toyota background.
You know, this probably isn't going to work because you're an executive, and executives always answer these questions correctly.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
But let me ask you.
I can role play very easily.
Yeah, very good. Well, let me ask you, Mansoor, am I pronouncing your name correctly, first of all?
Yes, you do.
Thank you. What would you say is the biggest challenge you face in your job today?
Politics.
Okay.
I mean, you want honest answer, correct?
Yeah, no, I do. So what reasons or problems are causing this to be a challenge for you?
The cases that you have the solution, but the boundaries defined by the politics does not allow that. So you need to play within the boundaries of the politics rather than finding the best answer.
Very good. Question number 3, what specific things would you need to address this problem?
Practically working with other executives to change the political boundaries. That's the only solution. Otherwise, technology is not the problem.
Makes sense. And then how is this impacting you?
I mean, people leave the company because of this, for example. So this is one problem. The other problem is that we are losing the competition.
Ooh, you're losing to competition, you said?
Yes, yeah, because I mean, we cannot compete in certain areas.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you mind if I ask you just a couple follow-up questions?
Yes, please.
How are you measured? How do you know when your job's done successfully? At the end of the year, what KPIs are you measured by, let's say?
You know, I am in a financial institute. All my goals are financially measured.
Okay.
In terms of cost reduction, quality improvement, that is again measured in financial values, and also risk reductions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. Do you find that politics then really impact your ability to reduce costs, provide higher levels of quality?
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Interesting.
I mean, then you need politics for sure. I mean, this is the soul of the company. The politics is the soul of the company, but you need to improve it. It's not like you cannot keep it stationary.
Interesting. Thank you. You did a fantastic job. How about a big round of applause, Mansoor? Thank you for that. You suggested that in number 1, that the biggest challenge you face in your job is politics, But would you agree with me if I said, actually, I believe the biggest challenge you face in your job today is reducing costs and increasing quality and reducing risk? And one of the reasons that's a challenge for you is because of the politics.
So you're right. I mean, if
Really,
you go,
politics.
if you build that root cause map, that is the root cause. Everything emanates from this.
Exactly. So I would suggest that your root cause or the critical business issue is the cost reduction, the financial components, the quality and the risk, and the problem then is politics. And so it's interesting. Most folks that we talk to, almost 99%, talk about problems, but our job has to be to continue to ask why, to ask about that impact, to ask about the measurements, so we can truly get to the root cause or what we call the critical business issue in doing discovery. And you just helped me prove that to some extent. I had to ask you one or two questions to actually get to that level. And I think that's one of the biggest components of doing discovery is to continue to ask why, to get past problems, to get the customers to even for their own perspective realize like, wow, yeah, no, wait, we have to tie this back to the value or the impact. And that's what really moves the change forward, in my opinion. Thoughts, questions, observations? Anyone would like to share? Well, then let's dive into this critical business issue real quick for just a moment. I want to make sure we spend just a moment here. And, I can give you the formal definition, if you will, which is, critical business issue is time-bound pressing challenge that could significantly impact a customer's business performance. That's the definition. But let's take it one step further. And bless you, Jim. The Let me ask a quick question. Does anyone here on the phone have a car, an automobile, with a squeak or a rattle, something that just generally annoys you? Certainly one of us does. Come off mute and tell me about it real quick. Greg, I see you smiling. Something come to mind?
Nothing directly, but I've had that kind of thing in the past, and it definitely can be annoying. It's
Okay, well,
amazing
give me a
how
quick example if you would. The thing in the past that annoyed you in your car.
um yeah, there was a whenever I would accelerate, there was a squeaking or a noise sound of something, and couldn't figure out what it was for a long time.
So you lived with it for a very long time. Okay. Did you eventually get it fixed or did you eventually just get a new car?
Eventually figured out what it was. It was the um part of what was holding the spare tire in wasn't secure in the back of underneath the thing in the trunk. So once I finally realized that and was able to tighten it, then I was able to
Sounds like an
deal with
easy
this.
fix. Oh my goodness. Um, Interesting.
It
Let's
took a
say that
long
you,
to get there to figure it
yeah,
out.
interesting. So did you ever take it to a mechanic to look at this
uh,
squeak or this issue?
I don't think on that particular one.
Okay. Well, let's say, so you lived with it a long time. It just wasn't a big enough priority for you to take it to the mechanic
Right.
or to investigate time. But let's say you were driving to work one day, that squeak or the rattle became horrible, and all of a sudden your car sputtered and it died and it was on the side of the road. Would that have been enough motivation for you to get it fixed right away?
Yes. And actually, thinking about it now, my daughter had a situation like that. So yes.
Sorry to hear that. So interesting. You lived with the problems for a very long time. It wasn't critical. I mean, we all have issues like our PCs are slow or we're having problems getting Zoom to work correctly. We have all the problems, but it doesn't mean that we're going to spend money or we're going to prioritize things. And so what I'm trying to identify here is most of your clients talk about problems. And it's our requirement, it's our job to continue to ask why, to get past problems to get to the CBI. Because if it is not critical, what are they not going to do?
Not going to
Spend money
pay
to
for
fix it.
something that.
or they're going to prioritize something else. And why would you want to spend time prioritizing or developing products and solutions to something that isn't going to be fixed because it's not at the right priority level or it's not critical enough to move something forward in your organization? If I'm looking at product management from an internal perspective and I'm developing software, I want to make sure that I'm recommending solutions, right, in the product roadmap that are going to dramatically move the needle. It's critical to the organization to generate more revenue or maintain more customers or not lose to competition. And the other features might be something lower. And so the CBI is such an important element. And I wanted to spend just an extra moment on it. And essentially,
Excellent.
when we, oh, please go
Sorry,
ahead.
Paul. I was just going to cover my question or a point earlier about what they have tried to do in the past to solve the problem kind of gets to that point you were just getting at, right? If they haven't done anything, then it's not worth solving. They're not big enough to solve for them to solve, right?
Absolutely. And in lower levels in the organization, we'll get a lot at times of complaints and challenges and people, you could call it whining to some extent, but it does affect their job. But is it big enough? Is it critical enough that it justifies the priority from our organization? So it's an interesting concept. So here's an example of a template. I didn't fill it out completely, but now that we've looked at it, we may look at this a little bit differently. If we go back to the initial assessment that we did using a situation slide, we know that we talked to the VP of operations, and we know that they had the customer experience delays in order fulfillment. They had no unified systems for tracking order issues, and that they had just some lacking data amongst leadership. We may have even gone through and found out exactly what they wanted using the exercise that we did that I shared with Mansoor to find out the key elements of what was required for him. And we know what those specific capabilities are, but by asking those why questions, we can actually get to the critical business issue, which is there's just operational inefficiencies leading to reclining retention and negative brand impact. And here's the problems it's causing, and here's how the customer thinks they can fix it. I'm going to stop there. Obviously, if we carried this conversation further, and if I had another hour of your time, we would identify what value and what impact that has and what the timing is. But we're not going to get that far today, ladies and gentlemen. But I wanted to do something. I wanted to give you something. And if I can have just another moment here, let me take you to the right slide. Because what I wanted to share with you is a resource guide. And if you scan this with your phone and get that QR code, it'll take you right to my website, where I'd love to share with you what I call the situation slide creation guide. This allow you to create situation slides, look at the key elements and the definitions and a couple of examples, and all the steps to actually generate that. So that when you're doing discovery, you can continue to ask the right questions so you can capture those elements. And Wendy, you may want to add a priority list to yours. I think that was amazing feedback. But this will help you capture the requirements. And then as you're doing that, think about the things that we discussed today of using empathy, finding out what the customer has in a vision, what they've tried before, and using those expansion questions, if you will, to find out a lot more details. Well, I wish I had a couple more hours with you, but I don't. We're at that hour mark or so. So first of all, I'll leave this up for just another 5 or 10 seconds if you want to scan that for resources or hit us up afterwards. Be happy to share with you that guide and those resources.
It's
and if not,
the QR code is not changing into a URL.
Yeah,
it's
Yeah,
not.
it doesn't change.
At least on my iPhone, it's not working for some reason. I think it might
It does
be
not.
a little too stylized for whatever the latest build of the iPhone software is.
Oh my goodness. Or maybe I just put the wrong code in. I'm scanning it myself right now. Hey, guess what? It's a bad QR code. Hey, so let's do this instead. I'm going to go find the right QR code for you while you're doing your networking session. I'll share it with you folks
Paste
then.
in chat,
Or
What's
if
that?
you could just put the URL in the chat, that works.
yeah,
Yeah.
that would work for everyone.
Let me go find that URL. I'll put it in chat. But for now, what I'd love to do is just move into a quick summary, open it up to any questions, thoughts, observations, comments that you have. Any questions for me?
So this URL takes us to a tool, correct?
It'll actually take you to a download page on my website, and you can capture and download this wonderful template and guide that I've created to help folks create situation slides to better understand and capture user requirements, the critical business issues, and the value. All right. Hey, the last slide here is just my digits and my details. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. That QR code may work. And if you hit that QR code, it's going to take you to LinkedIn. And here's the cool thing about LinkedIn. If you follow me, every day I put out a video, usually about discovery or doing demos effectively. But we also generate one article per week. We do a newsletter once a month. And so there's just a ton of free resources that come out every day. And if we're connected on LinkedIn, it's pretty easy to capture and follow and get that. So if you're interested in that or just connecting professionally so we can follow each other's career, I would be honored. And this QR code should get you there.
That one did work for me, by the way. So
Wonderful.
This one works. The
I love
previous
it.
one did not. And is it okay to send request to connect on LinkedIn?
Yes, please. Yeah, I'd be honored. Okay. Questions, thoughts, observations before I turn things back over to Tom and the team?
Jim raised his hand.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jim.
yeah, Paul, when back just before the cave slide, you had the slide up that said build the credibility, and you mentioned telling stories of other customers and their successes or situations like that. That can work pretty well if their situation is really aligned, but it is kind of a risky thing. I was going to suggest just keeping the line of questions, focusing on asking good questions rather than telling stories of great accomplishments and stuff like that.
Yes.
It's probably more likely to do it. And you came right to it in the cave thing. It's about asking the questions that help them discover the path and realize, oh, you're really interested in my problems. You understand my problems better than I do, well enough to ask the questions. You don't know the answers to all the questions, but you know the right questions that need to be asked. And therefore, I'm learning from you. And boy, I need a mentor like this. You know, the risk of going wrong is much lower. Whereas if you're talking about some great accomplishment or something like that, it's like, well, that totally doesn't match my situation. So why are you going off on bragging about that?
Exactly.
So there's that risk.
I think, Jim, when I think of the stories, a lot of times I'm thinking of them in a sales situation where I don't like to, at least in sales situations, I don't like to own, I don't like to have to defend anything. I don't like to say, I think you're going to save this. I would simply say, let me tell you a quick story. I had another customer that was in a similar situation and they needed a capability like this and they reported this form of value. But I'm curious, is this something that you feel would help you? Because the two most believable people in the world to a customer is either themselves or someone similar to them.
Up here, yeah.
And it's usually not me on the sales side of things or the sales team. They're not believable and they're not credible. So I always try to either take it to what do you need? What do you feel? What's your opinion? What have you researched? Or use a story of someone similar to them. But you nailed it. If it's not relevant, if it's not similar, it's just a wasted story and it doesn't build credibility and trust.
Some of the most successful salespeople I knew worked entirely on referrals. It was like, you need to talk to this person. They were in your situation. They got the stuff. Talk to them about their experience. And so it was,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's a very good point. Thank you.
Thanks.
Other questions, thoughts, or comments? This is good feedback. All right. Well, Tom, let me turn things back to you. I'll stop sharing my screen. I owe you a URL. I'm going to go find that as you're doing your networking, and I'll pop it into chat before I take off. Sound fair?
that sounds great. I'll also try and add it to, once we update with the posted video, I'll try and add that to the page for tonight's meeting as well. So